Mariners, Mariners podcast. Vintown Mariners podcast.
I like the crazy stuff. Yeah,
Well, I like the hard lumber.
enjoyable for everybody.
it's very exciting.
Very unique. To me, it was the best thing ever.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Vintown Mariners podcast. This is Vintown, the #1 Mariners podcast, recorded in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, home of a new Thomas Pynchon novel in the year 2025. Who thought that was possible? You're not here to hear about that. You're here to hear about the Seattle Mariners. Listen, I don't care what the record is right now. I just don't. The way the Mariners treat the early season is almost like an audition process. They see if stuff's going to work, and then they go from there. Think of the AJ Pollocks of the world. Think of the, I don't know, Rowdy Telez's of the world. They're trying to find something that works, find something, and then they're going to go and they're going to improve on it later in the year. I thought all along that this is what they would do. Do I like it? Do I like the results? No. Good organizations don't do this. The Phillies don't do this. They fill holes. The Braves don't do this. The Braves fill holes when somebody gets injured. They don't fill holes because they try to 38-year-old man out there and he didn't work out. But, it is what it is. I've thought for a long time that the Mariners wanted to upgrade third base in a trade, but that trade wasn't out there. Find it for me, and I'll agree with you. But it wasn't out there. It didn't happen. Nolan Arenado, that's probably the only one. The price tag and the aging curve probably stopped that from happening. But he's hit well early, so maybe that's something that might get revisited this year. Who knows? But anyway, just the early season is not really worrying me as far as the record and the play. The offense is let down. Robles' injury stinks. But Robles is almost the one position on this team where they could afford an injury. You had Dominic Canzone. Maybe he should have made the team. I mean, there's something there. He hits tons of home runs in AAA. Like, there's something there. Will we ever see it at the major league? I don't know. But then Luke Raley can play the outfield instead of first base. That's probably the better position for him. It sucks to lose Robles. You're going to take a hit offensively, and this is a team that shouldn't take hits offensively. But if there was one spot, that's probably the one. But yeah, we'll just have to see. We'll have to see Polanco's injury. We'll have to see a lot of things. Long term, I think it's going to be Polanco at first base or DH. I think they're going to try to upgrade third base somehow, some way. And second base remains in the air, and then the rest is locked in. That's probably where we're headed. First base, that's a big question mark for me. I don't think Rowdy Tellez will finish the season with this team, but hey, stranger things have happened. And if he does stay with the team, it'll probably be a good thing. But anyway, I'm not worried about the record. I'm worried about the decision-making of Dan Wilson as a manager. So that's going to be my main topic today. And it's a question of, is it early? Is it early in the season? Or is Dan Wilson not that good at this? Before we get into it, I do have an ad today. And the ad is for Sharp Baseball. That is actually my website, my Patreon. It is daily MLB bets, daily DFS content. I do a full report. I have my own system that I've built. If you bet on baseball, this is of interest to you. It's $10 a month. There's a 7-day free trial. If anyone wants to check it out. But yeah, it's just betting on baseball. If you like to bet on baseball, if you like digging into stats and finding the winners, this is it. This is for you. I'm not one of these guys who does like there's my 6-way home run prop parlay, and it hits once every 3 years. But when it does, it pays like $1,000. Like, that's not what this is. This is games, plus player props. But I'm not trying to break things. I'm just trying to predict winners, and I'm doing a pretty good job of it so far. If you're interested in that, check it out. If you're not, hey, let's get back to the podcast. When I say it's early in the season, I'm mostly looking at a lot of the bullpen decisions and maybe like Luke Rayleigh batting against lefties. I'm not going to kill them for that. That's probably something where they told Luke Rayleigh, this season we're going to give you more at bats against lefties. See if you can prove it. Because you were so good last year against righties. Like, we'd love to just have you be an everyday guy. So we're going to give you the chance. That happens early in the season with every team. They give people chances to do this. And then they have to prove if they can or they can't. And then they go to the next plan. Maybe it's their plan all along. But we see that a lot in baseball. So I'm not going to like totally kill him for that, even though I want to. And then it's the same thing with the bullpen. First of all, the bullpen is not what it's going to be. There's no Matt Brash and there's no Troy Taylor. Those project to be probably the second and third best guys of the bullpen, depending on what we get from Santos. So when you're putting like a Trent Thornton in a high leverage situation, that's just to see what you got, to see if he can do it. It's not so much like this is our strategy this year, or I don't know what I'm doing. But sometimes maybe it is. I don't know what I'm doing. But let's get into like some random examples. Okay. The first couple of games, I noticed this is how the roster was set up. Okay. Donovan Solano was hired to be, or signed, not high. I mean, I guess he was technically hired. He was brought in to face left-handed pitching. Whether that's a platoon with Luke Rayleigh, whether that's a platoon with Rowdy Tellez, he was brought in to do that. Rowdy Tellez in his career, 88 WRC plus against lefties, 100 WRC plus against righties. Solano's more even, but he is slightly better against lefties in his career. Luke Rayleigh, talked about him a little bit already, 66 WRC plus in his career against lefties. Not a huge sample there, so you can see why they want to give him a chance. 130 WRC plus against righties. That's where you want him. That's where you want to see him. But against a lefty, he would not be my first choice, second choice, etc. And then finally we have Mitch Garver. If Garver's going to be getting these DH at bats, they should be against lefties. In his career, 135 WRC plus. And then against righties, 106 WRC plus. Last season, I think he was even above 100 in his WRC plus against lefties, even with that like terrible, terrible year that he had. So he is a guy you want in that position as well. We have not seen this so far. I look at like the first game of the season. It was either the first or the second game. There was a very questionable, let's bring in Luke Rayleigh as a pinch hitter. They immediately go to the lefty, and then they just let him strike out. Not going to kill him for that. You could just flip around. You could flip around and do another pinch hitter there. If it's late in the game, you burn Rayleigh, but you're trying to win the game, so you try to win the game. You can also like do the thing where you just don't announce Rayleigh as a pinch hitter, but you put him in the on deck circle, and then you force the other team to make that choice before, you kind of play chicken with the other manager. You see that a lot. But that's not what happened there. There was another example though. It was, okay, Polanco hits the 2-run home, or the 2-run home run, I think it was, to take the lead. And then the next batter is Tellez against the lefty. And they just let him bat. And like, yes, you just got the lead in the eighth. All you need to do is lock it down and win it. Maybe you don't want to make a change there, but like, I don't know, it's only a 1-run lead at that point. Go ahead and put in Solano as a pinch hitter. Because for me, it's not only about the best having the best hitter up in the best situation. It's about, guys having their role, knowing like, hey, yeah, you're not starting today, but you're going to get up to the plate. This is how we do it. You for you, you for you. You guys work together, whatever. You're out. Whoever's the DH against a righty, you're leaving. Garver's coming in. You're playing first base. You're leaving. Solano's coming in. That's like how I think it would work best, and that's how they built the roster. Like maybe Donovan Solano's washed. He very well could be washed. He's 37 years old. He's always been light hitting, but he has over 270 career batting average. And like another specific instance I can think of where Tellez batted against the lefty and they didn't go to Solano. Another thing about that is Rowdy Tellez has a 27% career strikeout rate against lefties. So yeah, maybe some years he can hit them better than others, but he's going to strike out 1 in 4 times. That's not Donovan Solano. That's not Solano's game. He's contact, puts the ball in play, and that's what you want in that situation. But we've seen this in weird ways too. Like I'm almost wondering if Solano is hurt or if they just see something they don't like, or if just Dan Wilson doesn't like him. Because Solano has not been like the first pinch hit bat off the bench. And honestly, he should be. And the way his splits are, 100 WRC plus against lefties, 97 WRC plus against righties, you could just pinch hit him whenever the platoon is negative to the batter, The one thing I want to talk about with this is this article from Adam Jude from a year ago, because I think it's kind of instructive of what is going on right now with Dan. This was an article written by Adam Jude it's basically about Skylar Shabamana, but it's about Scott Service working with him. Skylar is the Mariners' head of strategy or something like that, director of, game strategy, whatever. And what he would do last year was he would give Scott Service these game cards. You'd always see Scott Service with like a clipboard or a binder throughout the game. And this is what was in there. And so there was the game card, lineups for both teams printed on both sides. He has it, and he also has left-right splits, this season's results, last season's results, strikeout rate, walk rate, and then it's like highlighted. This is yellow, this is green, etc. Like simple, like stuff that we can sit here and look up at home, but in a game you can't do that. Then there's a running card. The card was a percent of the pitchers thrown in certain counts, and like catcher stats and things like that, probably. And then finally, there was what Scott Service called the magic card. Use a predictive formula to spit out a projected outcome for each hitter versus pitcher matchup. It plays into what the pitcher throws, what the hitter hits, swing pass, swing tendency. It's all baked into a number that you can use. And then this is color coded. Red means hitter is aggressive. Blue means patient hitter. And green means go, which means a favorable matchup for the Mariners. I bring this up because there is no way that Dan Wilson is looking at these based on some of the things I've seen. Using Miles Mastrobuoni as a pinch hitter over Donovan Solano, a professional pinch hitter, that's not green. There's no way on earth that that's green. And this goes back to something I think about Scott Service, which is he has autonomy in a way that Scott Service never did. Like, I think Dan Wilson was probably an ownership hire. There was a story a few years ago where they asked Lou Piniella to come back. And Lou Piniella said, just hire the old players, like everyone would love that. And you know what people would love, I think, is like people would love like a guy who knows his stuff. You know, that's what people would love. But I think this Dan is he has autonomy. He doesn't have to listen to Skyler. He doesn't have to listen to Jerry DePoto. He doesn't have to listen to Hollander. He manages the team. And you see this with pinch hitting decisions, you see this with bullpen decisions. Um, and you know, it might be early. It might be early, and that's the reason we're seeing some of the stuff. They're giving Rowdy Tellez, for example, enough rope to hang himself. Like, because if Rowdy Tellez can be what he like, there was 3 months last year where he hit like for a 130 WRC plus, like 3 months, and then the other 2 months it was like 55, and he got released. So maybe that's it. Maybe they're just early. Let's give this guy a chance. Let's give him all the chances in the world. Miles Mastroboni, you know, maybe he's gotten a few contact hits here and there, so they're riding the hot hand while Solano started slow. You know, maybe something like that. Maybe I'm just like way overthinking it. But I don't know. There's a lot of questionable stuff where I'm like, this isn't right. This just isn't right. And then you see Aaron Goldsmith like openly question it on air, which is not really his job. His job is really to be like, you know, the Mariners, we're the best. We're the greatest team. But I think that Aaron Goldsmith in his position uh is respected by the audience, right? He knows his stuff. If you ever listen to his podcast with Jerry DePoto, he knows stuff. He knows analytics. He knows baseball strategy, right? So when he sees it not being done right, he can't sit there and say this is the right thing to do because he has credibility. He has credibility with the audience that he would destroy if he said something he said in the past is wrong. He can't do that. Like he has to protect himself. He has to protect his credibility for not all for the long term of his career, but also just for the long term of the season. Like you're not going to want to sit there and listen to a guy with no credibility. So that's kind of what I think is going on here. I would not be surprised if like someone like Aaron Goldsmith, someone like Gary Hill Jr., someone like Aaron Goldsmith, like if they were buddies with Skylar Shabamana, you know, like they loved that stuff. They want to learn that stuff. And that wouldn't be surprised if they talk to him and then they see it where Dan's not listening to them and they just can't like let it go. They can't just like be like, this was correct. I don't know. That's kind of what I think is going on here. I think it's not good. I think Dan Wilson particularly needs like a come to Jesus meeting. Briefly about the bullpen, or briefly about just a couple other things. Tuesday night's game against the Astros, they warmed up Munoz because they thought maybe the ninth would be a save. They set him down because it wasn't. It was tied. And then they warmed him back up for the 10th. That's not good for a pitcher. Don't do that. Like, just don't. That's not good. Like, every ramp up, every time you warm up in the bullpen, you might as well just go in the game because that's what it does to your health. That's all part of your health. And if you want Munoz for 162 games, like, you don't waste those times that you warm him up. If you warm him up, he's coming in. Another thing about that game that I'll say is the bunting. You know, whatever. Bunting, whatever, we'll never agree on that. You know, most people, everyone's got their own opinion on bunting. But the one thing I'll say about bunting on Thursday that I think was completely wrong, but other people might disagree. Josh Hader, in his second inning, an elite lefty reliever, facing J.P. Crawford with Ryan Bliss on second. Ryan Bliss, probably the fastest guy on the team, or second or third, but one of the fastest guys on the team for sure. And then JP, the most patient hitter on the team. So what do they do? What do they do? They have JP late on the bunt. It doesn't work out. He ends up striking out. Okay. I don't like you ever give away outs because your outs are your most precious resource. Yeah, you get into third, then you can do a sac fly, blah, blah, blah. And maybe that would have worked out if he did get it down. But you don't give away the outs. And in this environment, anyone with speed can score from second on a single. Anyone. JP could do it himself, and he is nowhere near as fast as Bliss. So I didn't like it for that reason. I also didn't like it because, like I said, it was a second inning of Hader. JP is their most patient hitter. At worst, same result. He strikes out. But the next two batters get to see a little bit more of what he has. They get to see the pitches he's throwing. And he gets tired because he's already pitched one inning. Josh Hader for years refused to pitch 2 innings until he got paid. So the more pitches you can make someone throw, the better chance you have to hit them. I don't think that's not controversial. That's just facts. So yeah, that's why I didn't like that. I didn't like the yo-yoing of Munoz, and I still don't like the pinch hitting situation. Miles Mastrobuoni should probably never pinch hit, really. What was it, Monday's? Yeah, Monday's game when Ryan Bliss had hit the only home run of the game, 2-run home run against a right-handed pitcher, and then he faces a right-handed pitcher later in the game, and you pinch hit Miles Mastrobuoni for him, which, sure, fine. That makes sense. But maybe this is the day that Bliss is hot. Maybe this is the day Bliss is hitting well. So I think he would deserve that other bat. I don't know. It's just so selective to me. He's not doing the same things on the same days. He's just kind of flying by the seat of his pants, and I think it's very obvious. And I don't like it. I hope that this is just a blip. I hope that he figures it out, that they get a day off here and he sits down with the analytics team and says, hey, here's where we think you could be better this season. Here's where we think you could be better in these games. It's not an anti-Dan Wilson thing. I'm sure he seems like a great guy. People love Dan Wilson. But I want a guy who understands the game on a level far beyond me. I don't want to sit here and criticize him because I know better than him, but I feel like I know better than him, and that sucks. That's not what I want. I want to sit back and be like, damn, how did he do that? How is he so smart? That's how I want to feel. That's what I want from a major league manager. That's what everyone wants. So, get him a copy of Earl Weaver on Strategy. Get him a copy of the book by Tom Tango and them. And just sit him down in the room with Skyler and the rest of the strategy team and just figure this out. Because this team is good. I believe they're good. I still believe they're going to be a playoff team. Just watch. Even if however this Houston series goes, it doesn't matter. They're going to face the Rangers. The Rangers are really limping out of the start, hitting-wise. This division is still there for the taking. These early games are just a blip, and I believe good things are coming ahead, but we need to get a little bit smarter. We need to get smarter. So let's work on ourselves. Let's all try to be better. And that's it. That's it for today's Vintown Mariners podcast. I've got a really fun, exciting video coming soon. I'm hoping by next week to the YouTube channel. So check that out if you haven't subscribed. It's going to be a really good one. It's probably going to give me like 100 copyright strikes, but it's going to be worth it. But other than that, you know, hey, take it one day at a time. If you don't want to watch some of these games, just don't. But the team is going to be good before you know it, and we're just going to laugh about how awful this all felt. That's what I believe. I watch a lot of baseball across the league, and I think the Mariners can play with most of these teams, are better than a lot of these teams. And that's enough. That's enough right now. So until next time, I'm Vintown. I'll see you later. Go Ams. Go Ams.
There is so much more information. There is so much more technology, but using it in the right direction and using it in the right amounts is also and equally as important.